Putin threatens nuclear war with West in Ukraine conflict. Will Russia survive? Putin accuses NATO of fueling Ukraine conflict and plotting to disintegrate Russia. Ukraine strikes back. Explosive attacks target Russian troops and supply lines in Mariupol, using U.S. rockets. Spring offensive looms. Enjoy watching and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on important news. Putin casts war as a battle for Russia's survival. On February 26 in Moscow, the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, described the conflict with the West regarding the Ukraine war as a crucial battle for the continuation of Russia and its people. He claimed that he had to consider NATO's nuclear capabilities. 1 year after ordering the invasion of Ukraine, Putin is now framing the war as a decisive moment in Russian history, and he believes that the future of Russia and its people is at stake. In an interview with Rossio One State Television, which was recorded on Wednesday and released on Sunday, Putin stated their singular goal is to dismantle the former Soviet Union and its fundamental component, the Russian Federation. The West and NATO reject such claims and insist that their objective is to assist Ukraine in defending itself against an unprovoked aggression. Putin asserted that the West intends to split up Russia and then control the world's leading supplier of natural resources. He warned that such actions could result in the destruction of numerous Russian peoples, including the ethnic Russian majority. I am uncertain whether the Russian people, as an ethnic group, can continue to exist in their current state, Putin stated, without specifying the location where he believes the West has documented their plans. Although President Joe Biden has stated that Putin should not continue to lead, the United States has denied any intention to demolish Russia. Additionally, Biden has cautioned that a conflict between NATO and Russia could instigate a third world war. Putin claimed that the tens of billions of dollars in military support that the United States and Europe have given to Ukraine indicate that Russia is now confronting NATO as a whole, a fear that both Western and Soviet leaders had during the Cold War. Ukraine has vowed to continue fighting until every last Russian soldier has been removed from the country, including those in Crimea, which Russia annexed in 2014. In Russia, Putin's portrayal of the war as an existential conflict enables the Kremlin leader to prepare the Russian people for a much more profound conflict, while also providing him with greater flexibility in terms of the weapons he may use in the future. Russia's official nuclear doctrine authorizes the use of nuclear weapons if they or other types of weapons of mass destruction are used against Russia, or if conventional weapons pose a threat to the very existence of the state. Putin has indicated that he is ready to abandon the architecture of nuclear arms control, including the major powers' ban on nuclear testing, unless the West backs down in Ukraine. On Tuesday, he attempted to emphasize Russian determination in Ukraine by suspending a landmark nuclear arms control treaty, announcing that new strategic systems had been put on combat duty, and warning that Moscow could resume nuclear testing. Putin stated that Russia would only resume talks once the nuclear weapons of France and Britain were also taken into account. Russia, which inherited the Soviet Union's nuclear arsenal, has the world's largest stockpile of nuclear warheads. According to the Federation of American Scientists, it has more warheads than the United States, France, and Britain combined. In today's circumstances, when all of the leading NATO countries have identified their primary objective as delivering a strategic defeat to us, so that our people suffer, as they say, how can we ignore their nuclear capabilities in these circumstances? Putin questioned. Putin stated that the most significant outcome of the previous year was the unity of the Russian people. NATO taking part in Ukraine conflict with arms supplies, Putin. During an interview with Rossio One broadcasted on Sunday, Russian President Vladimir Putin accused NATO member nations of contributing to the Ukraine conflict by providing weaponry to the country. He also claimed that the West intended to disintegrate Russia. They are supplying weapons worth tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine. This implies participation, Putin remarked. Putin added that Western nations had a singular objective: to dismantle the former Soviet Union and its most important component, the Russian Federation. Only then, perhaps, will they consider us part of the so-called family of civilized nations, but only as separate entities, each part individually, he said. Putin made these statements on Thursday at a patriotic concert in Moscow, just before the first anniversary of Russia's extensive attack in Ukraine. During the interview, Putin reaffirmed his request for a multipolar world and claimed that he had no uncertainty that this would transpire. What are we opposing? The fact that this new world, which is being established, serves solely the interests of one country, the United States. Now that their efforts to reshape the world after the Soviet Union's downfall have resulted in this scenario, we are required to react. U.S. missiles with a 100-mile range are used by Ukraine in the first strikes to retake Mariupol from Russia. The city of Mariupol, which had fallen to the Kremlin last May after a 3-month siege that left the key port in ruins, was targeted by Ukraine in a series of surprise attacks on Russian troops and supply lines. This was the first time the city had been struck since its fall, and at least 18 strikes took place over 3 successive days last week, with the most recent on Friday night. This marks a significant escalation in Ukrainian efforts to retake its captured southern corridor, which links to Crimea. There is speculation that the recent explosions may have involved newly donated U.S. long-range rockets with a range of almost 100 miles. Oleksiy Danilov, Ukraine's Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council, claimed that the military had destroyed Russian terrorists who invaded Mariupol and stated that distance was not a major concern. The Sea of Azov port of Mariupol, which fell to the Kremlin last May after a brutal 3-month siege that left the key port in ruins, has been turned into a significant garrison by Moscow. Russian forces believe that the nearest Ukrainian forces, about 60 miles away in the fiercely contested mining town of Volodar, were too far away to hit the port. However, sources in Mariupol report that the attacks were targeted with the assistance of local sympathizers. Ammunition dumps, fuel depots, and a military barracks based in a steel plant were hit, resulting in 50 Russian casualties in the first wave of explosions on Wednesday. There were 12 reported strikes that day, then 5 the following day, including at least 2 more on the Illich Steel and Iron Works and 1 near the airport. Another explosion occurred at around 10:30 p.m. on Friday. Petro Andriushenko, an advisor to the mayor of Mariupol, expressed satisfaction, saying, "I am absolutely happy. We worked hard with our resistance inside Mariupol for this attack. This is a step towards the deoccupation of Mariupol. Any Ukrainian should be happy." According to another local official, Russian targets were also hit in the villages of Yalta and Urivka, about 20 miles along the coast from Mariupol, where there is a large concentration of occupiers. Oleg Zdanov, a former Ukrainian artillery colonel and leading defense analyst, stated that what we are seeing in Mariupol is a systematic destruction of logistic supplies for the Russians. It looks like the same as we did before retaking Kherson. Kherson was liberated by a Ukrainian counteroffensive 4 months ago, dealing a significant blow to Vladimir Putin's claims to have annexed the entire region. However, the city remains under frequent shelling from Russian forces.